Wolf on the Road. Chapter 6: The Final Hunt. James stood frozen in the pitch-black gas station, his pulse thundering in his ears. The oppressive darkness was suffocating, closing in on him from all sides. He could feel it. Whatever had been chasing him, whatever had been haunting him, it was here, in the room, hiding in the shadows. His breath came in shallow gasps as he strained to listen for any movement, any sound that might give away its position. But there was only silence. The kind of deep, unnatural silence that made every instinct in his body scream at him to run. But there was nowhere to go. He could still see the twisted reflection of his own face in his mind, the monstrous version of himself that had appeared in the gas station moments before the lights had gone out. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But the fear clawing at his gut told him otherwise. Slowly, James reached for the flashlight clipped to his belt, his fingers trembling as he fumbled with the switch. The beam flickered to life, cutting through the darkness like a knife. He swept it across the room, the narrow cone of light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The shelves were still empty, the counter covered in dust. Nothing had moved. But then, out of the corner of his eye, something shifted. A figure, barely visible in the periphery of his vision, darted behind one of the shelves. James's heart skipped a beat. He swung the flashlight toward the movement, his hand shaking as the beam illuminated the area. Nothing. Am I imagining this? His thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and terror, but he knew he couldn't afford to lose focus. Whatever this thing was, it was toying with him. "Come out!" he yelled, his voice cracking. The echo bounced off the walls, fading into the distance. But there was no response, no movement. Just the endless, oppressive quiet. The whispers returned, low at first, like the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. Then they grew louder, more insistent, filling his head with a cacophony of voices he couldn't understand. They were all around him, surrounding him, and yet he couldn't see a thing. He backed up, his flashlight beam darting from corner to corner, desperate to catch even a glimpse of the creature stalking him. His mind raced, replaying everything he had been through, the curse, the transformation, the endless nights of running. All of it had led to this moment. James's foot hit something behind him, a shelf or a box, he wasn't sure, and he stumbled, nearly dropping the flashlight. The beam wavered, casting wild shadows on the walls as he scrambled to steady himself. And then, in the flickering light, he saw it. A pair of glowing eyes watching him from the far end of the room. James froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The eyes didn't blink, didn't move. They just stared, unblinking, from the shadows. And then, slowly, they began to approach. He couldn't breathe. His chest tightened with fear as the creature stepped into the light. It was him. The monstrous version of himself, but distorted, its skin pale and stretched tight over its bones, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The creature bared its teeth, sharp and jagged, and let out a low growl that sent a shiver down James's spine. It was hunting him. James took a step back, his mind racing. This can't be real. This can't be happening. But the creature was there, advancing slowly, deliberately. And with each step, the whispers grew louder. I won't become you," James whispered to himself, his voice barely audible. But the creature only grinned, a twisted, mocking smile. Suddenly, the creature lunged. James barely had time to react, diving out of the way as the thing swiped at him with razor-sharp claws. He hit the ground hard, his flashlight skidding across the floor and plunging the room into near darkness once again. Panic surged through him as he scrambled to his feet, grabbing for the flashlight. His fingers found it, but the beam was faint now, flickering weakly. He had to get out. He had to escape, but the creature was blocking the only exit. With no other option, James bolted toward the back of the store, his heart racing as he searched for another way out. His eyes scanned the walls, the shelves, anything that might lead to freedom. And then he saw it, a door, partially hidden behind a stack of boxes. He ran for it, his breath coming in ragged gasps. But just as his hand reached the doorknob, the whispers reached a fever pitch, deafening him with their intensity. And then, everything went silent. James froze, his hand trembling on the doorknob. He turned slowly, the flashlight beam weak but steady enough to show what was behind him. The creature was gone. For a moment, he thought he had imagined the whole thing. The whispers, the glowing eyes, the monstrous version of himself, it all seemed so surreal. But then he felt it. A cold breath on the back of his neck. James turned slowly, his flashlight shaking in his hand. And there, standing inches from him, was the creature. It grinned, its eyes glowing brighter than before. James didn't think. He threw open the door and ran, his boots pounding against the concrete as he fled into the night. The fog swallowed him whole, the world beyond the gas station disappearing into the mist. But he didn't stop running. Behind him, the whispers continued, growing fainter as he put more distance between himself and the gas station. But they never truly disappeared. They stayed with him, always lurking at the edges of his consciousness, waiting for the next full moon, for the next hunt. James knew now that he couldn't escape. The curse was a part of him, and no matter how far he ran, no matter how hard he tried, it would always find him. He was the wolf on the road, and the hunt had only just begun.